How did I escape the Jehovah's Witnesses after 29 years since birth? How did I escape the Jehovah's Witnesses after 29 years of being in it since birth? To help you understand, what I did was almost impossible. The less time you spend in the organization, the easier it is to leave. But when you've been there since your very first breath and every step of your life is controlled by its ideology, you're trapped. Since childhood, I was taught one message over and over: outside the organization, your life will only get worse. That fear delayed my exit for years, even though I was never truly okay being there. My childhood and teenage years felt like constant survival on three fronts. 1. At school, I was constantly bullied by my classmates because I was a Jehovah's Witness. 2. At home, I was bullied and beaten by my own mother, a religious fanatic who had serious mental health issues. 3. In the congregation, there was ruthless competition, total control, and hypocrisy. Despite all this pressure, I tried my hardest to be a good girl. My rise within the organization was very fast. By the age of 4, I was already preaching on the streets, what they call field service. My mother would put me out front, and people would listen because after all, I was just a child. At 6, I became an unbaptized publisher. At 13, I got baptized and lived in fear that one mistake could cost me everything. From 17 to 25, I served as a pioneer, meaning I devoted nearly all of my free time to preaching. I gave 29 years of my life to this. My true self had been erased completely. How can someone even find a way out under those conditions? 7 years of fighting for my freedom. When I finally realized that I could no longer live like this, I found myself facing a wall. I had neither information nor financial resources, but I began my journey of escape, a step-by-step process that took me 7 long years. Here is the plan I followed to rebuild myself. First, understanding my mind. I started learning about my constant anxiety and the panic attacks that had become a part of my everyday life. A self-therapy. I couldn't afford professional help, so I started studying psychology and psychiatry on my own to understand what was happening to me. 3. Analyzing the system like a marketer. I created a detailed psychological profile of religious fanatic based on real cases from people around me. It was exactly like researching a target audience before launching a project. 4. Finding myself. I started looking for like-minded people online and took part in self-discovery challenges to figure out my real desires and values. 5. Turning a hobby into a career. Once I finally understood who I was and what I wanted, I enrolled in training to turn my favorite hobby into an online profession. 6. Building a financial foundation. I started working remotely and saving money for my dream, moved to a nearby city. 7. Resharpen my circle. Little by little and in a way that felt healthy for me, I distanced myself from friendships with people in the sect and started looking for new friends and colleges who shared the same work and interests. This journey of total transformation and leaving an abusive system took 7 years of my life. But today I am free. I earn a living doing what I love, and I know exactly who I am. That could be a dissertation, especially the profile of a Jehovah's Witness. Back in my student years, I almost fell into the trap myself. I hung out with them for a few months, but I guess they weren't very careful about how they treated newcomers in the community. So the warning things started showing up while I still wasn't deeply involved. I simply stopped attending, and after a few attempts to bring me back, they left me alone. The only positive thing was that I learned how to communicate with an audience and with random people on the street. That skill helped me later in the other situations. I was very stubborn, and my mom never managed to drag me into their den, even though she tried really hard. It cost me a very high price, and it cost her too. She ended up being cowed out of my life. I was really raised in a family like that until I was 18. It was hard at first, but I don't regret living for a single minute. Everything will work out. Life is an interesting thing, and limiting it the way they do is the real sin. I am not an aggressive person, but whenever I see those sect members standing there with their displays and brochures, I can barely stop myself from ripping their throats out. My childhood friend got sucked into that sect, and ever since then, I've hated them on a molecular level. Just shocking. You are an incredibly strong person and woman. I believe that school psychologists and social services should pay special attention to children from such sects, because the brainwashing, the complete isolation of a children from social life outside of what is approved by the group, and having a fanatic mother all directly damage a child's mental health and create an unhealthy environment for growing up. You're unbelievably strong for managing to go through all of that and find your way out on your own. My relative's mother turned her back on him when he left. It hurt him very deeply. That's exactly how it works. My mother blocked me and completely cut me out of her life. I had prepared myself for that possibility long before it happened. Nothing will help them. To change a person has to be self-aware, and to unpack that awareness, you need acceptance instead of the black and white thinking they are taught. I gradually worked my way out of the black and white mindset because I wanted to look at my problems from a different perspective. My mother doesn't even have that desire, and neither do most of them. They're taught that this is a form of beneficial punishment, meant to make a person come to their senses and return. Hello, I come from a family like that too, but I was lucky to have a stubborn personality. Around the age of 14 or 15, I started rebelling, and at 17 I moved to another city to study and finally got away from all of it. To give you an idea, I am almost 30 now, and my stepfather, we rarely talk, still reminds me whenever anything goes wrong that I should go to them and open their brochures, because that's where all the answers are. Unfortunately, most of the kids who were there with me are still in it, having become devoted fanatics of the organization. Oh, I understand. I had a rebellious phase too, from about 13 to 16, but back then I didn't have the courage to leave. Plus, there wasn't any trusted authority figure outside the sect that I could turn to, so they pulled me back in pretty quickly. Reading this, I want to say one thing. You did an amazing job and saved the only life you have. I do have a question, because you honestly can't remember ever knowing anyone on the inside. I'd be very interested to learn more about how everything works there. I'm also curious whether the people standing on the streets are paid. For years, I've been seeing the same people in the same sport around Kiev. Is it really all unpaid? I'm also curious why they react so negatively to people who live their fate, or whatever the correct term would be. I wish you happy and free life. Life is beautiful. Thank you for your support. It isn't paid it anyway. Otherwise, I'd be looking for a job. So basically, people spend their days standing there and promoting the church for free. I can understand people who get a feeling of happiness from it, but what made someone follow all the sex rules? Sorry, I just can't understand what they do to people that makes them become so obedient. Do they tell you that Jesus loves you and forgives everything, or something like that? What exactly does a person get out of it? This piece just don't fit together in my head. Do they actually provide anything in their church, or are people simply being used? You're beautiful. I'm glad you got out. It's years of brainwashing. It all starts with innocent, free Bible study. People don't go there because life is going well. Every case, and my mother is one of them, is about overcoming addictions. For some it's alcohol, for others it's drugs. They turn every person into a success story, and then you go out and sincerely sell it by preaching your own story, experience and transformation, pulling other people in. They help me look who I was and who I've become. Your life will change too. And then the buts begin. But you can do this, you can do that, you can't do that either. It's all just like an abusive relationship. This is an eye-opener for me. So they really do change the lives of people with addictions, and then the person starts selling the fate themselves? What an interesting case in terms of how to sell an idea. You have shown this religious to me from a different side. Thank you. At one point, I was writing a book about different religions, but I never finished it. Your post and story inspire me to return to this topic of influence on the masses. There are incredibly many people in different sects, even though that may sound offensive now to those who are there. I applaud you. You've done an incredible job. Pulling yourself out of something like that takes a very strong person. You're an incredibly strong woman. I know another case where a girl was taken there from the day she was born. She's over 30 now, and today she takes her own children there. It's just madness. I think that's the best anti-advertisement for the sect. Talk to her and you won't want to go there. Yes, unfortunately that's exactly how they survive. On the Children of Jehovah's Witnesses, a target audience raises for the future, free labor for their construction projects and other facilities. Can I ask a question? What is the point or what is the benefit of bringing more and more new recruits into the Jehovah's Witnesses? None. You don't get paid for it. You're supposed to be happy that you saved one more person and earned God's approval. Technically, you write it down in your report. 1 Bible study, the number of hours, how long you talked, and everyone in the congregation praises you for the case. That part depends on how much progress the newcomer is making. Do you consider yourself a believer? If so, is there any particular denomination that appeals to you? God forbid. I wasted 29 years of my life. You are kidding? To stay out of trouble, I'd rather be a sinner now. In every religion I see money making, marketing and brainwashing. Thanks, but no thanks. That said, of course, it's clear that Jehovah's Witnesses are a destructive religious movement, but good still exists. I hope you'll go through the path of the prodigal son and return, not to the Jehovah's Witnesses of course, but to a relationship with God in general. I wandered for 29 years while I wasn't allowed to be myself, and now, when I found myself and become free, I am finally happy. That's good to hear. I've experienced life both as a believer and as a non-believer, and my final conclusion is still that it's easier to go through life with faith. Besides, if God is real and not just a Yiddish tale, then I see faith as the only logically correct way to live. I hope that this new stage of your life, outside the church and perhaps even outside faith, will bring you the experience you're looking for, and that in the end, you'll come to the right conclusion. I wish you all the best. How did your husband react? We had discussed everything beforehand, so it was fine. Did he leave too? No, he's still there. He's just not longer a pastor, and he got married again to a woman who isn't a Jehovah's Witness. I can congratulate you with full understanding. I was a Jehovah's Witness for 6 years, and I've been free for 15 years now. But I felt the same thing when I was escaping an abusive relationship. The only difference is that you're not being chased by a person, but by your own feelings of worthlessness, the lack of solid ground beneath your feet, and the constant fight for yourself. In other words, getting right of the loop while you're programmed, because I choose to live the way I want, and I'd like to walk with you. I was there too from childhood, for as long as I can remember, around the age of 4, until I was about 16-17 years old. You described certain things in great detail, so I won't repeat myself about the billing, the problems with socialization, and most of all, the difficulties with standing up for yourself, or the violence in the family. I came to this religion myself so that I would be allowed to be friends with a girl who was a daughter of a Jehovah's Witness. They gave me candy, listened to me, and as a child I was fine with everything. I wasn't taken seriously and I wasn't forced into anything. But it was hard for my friend to leave. For a long time, she lied to her mother that she was still in the religion. I had a coworker who was very kind, had a great sense of humor, and was fun to be around. I honestly have no idea how someone like her ended up with the Jehovah's Witnesses. They basically broke her whole life. First, she divorced her husband because he didn't accept the Jehovah's Witnesses. Later, she met some good man, but Jehovah's Witnesses can only be with the Jehovah's Witnesses. So that was a no as well. From time to time, she was put under a ban on communication, but she still kept coming back after repenting. But she never tried to brainwash me, and for that I'm endlessly grateful to her. That's rare in our congregation. She would have been called inactive or not spiritual enough. How do you see it? Are they growing in numbers, developing and expanding, or is all of this slowly fading away instead? No, not really. There are only about 8 or 9 million of them. They were grown in the 19th, when they were giving away things and helping people with addictions. But nowadays, very young people make fun of them, so they forced to make concessions and relax some rules. Now men can wear berets, and women can wear pants while preaching. It's the 21st century, and communication with disfellowed people like me, as well as blood transfusions, is now a matter of conscience, whereas before it was forbidden. But they're so scared that they still fear it, even when it's allowed. Glad to hear that. I hope there is a chance it will disappear as a phenomenon over time. One of my former classmates got pulled into it through her husband, though she didn't have any addictions. Maybe she had other problems. I wish you success in making up for the lost time. Thank you. In reality, the only way to fight something like this is probably at the legislative level. They're already facing lawsuits over covering up pedophilia and deaths caused by the ban on blood transfusions, as well as suicides after developing due to intense pressure. But they don't tell their own people about that. They're not allowed to communicate with those who have left, because they might influence their fate, and they can get in trouble if it's discovered that they're talking to sinners like me. It's all just like an abusive relationship. Have you or someone close to ever been drawn into a sect? Or maybe you have a successful story of how you go out of one? Share it in the comments. You bring the subscription, I'll bring the like. Don't forget to check out the new videos and find us on social media.